Ted Cruz is going to oversee NASA and science in the upcoming Congress. This is one of the most depressing stories out today. Ted Cruz is going to head a science committee and oversee NASA. It's like a nightmare come to life. So Huffington Post ran through Cruz's record on these issues, and you're not going to be surprised to learn his record is horrendous. They say, quote, Cruz's infamous hours-long speech, the non-filibuster filibuster, in September 2013, led to a 16-day government shutdown, barring 97% of NASA employees from appearing for work. Of course, Ted Cruz didn't give a shit. Interns to the agency were temporarily displaced when the NASA-provided housing was closed during the shutdown. Stay classy, buddy. And many have said the agency suffered lasting damage due to the freeze. They say NASA wasn't the only agency hit by the shutdown. Research programs run by the National Institute of Health suffered a blow when new clinical trials were suspended, affecting 200 new patients each week of the shutdown. Environmental Protection Agency programs were also compromised, with 90% of employees furloughed. 90% of the employees at the EPA were furloughed because of this dumbass's non-filibuster filibuster to grandstand for the conservative base. The agency has conducted research on climate change, recently kicking off 5 projects to study how the Earth's atmosphere affects global warming. Cruz has claimed that there isn't enough evidence to prove global warming is occurring, telling CNN he was skeptical of the, quote, so-called scientific theory. It's a so-called theory, you know, like gravity. And they say, quote, contrary to, or I should say, Ted Cruz says, quote, contrary to all the theories that they are expounding, there should have been warming over the last 15 years, and it hasn't happened. Yes, Ted, it did. You're too busy reading the Daily Caller and WorldNet Daily and insane fringe websites, so you're up your own ass and you're in your own political bubble, which is incredibly dense, and you're not letting any real facts in. This guy's heading a science committee. This guy's going to oversee NASA. This is what this country has come to. It's just like Jim Inhofe. Jim Inhofe was the head of the Science and Technology Committee. A guy who was the leading climate science denier was the head of the committee. Now, that's not by accident. This is a very important point. It's not like these people rise to prominence by accident. They rise to prominence for a reason. There's a reason why Ted Cruz is now going to lead these committees, because he's a sellout, and the corporations know that's their boy. So he's going to do whatever his donors tell him to do. So if it's ExxonMobil, if it's Chevron, if it's BP, if it's fracking companies, people who are engaged in the fossil fuel extraction industry, they're going to tell him, hey, I gave you money for your last election cycle, so do me a favor. Squash this new Democratic legislation coming out to try to better regulate mercury pollution, or try to better regulate carbon pollution, or whatever the case may be. The adding of new things to the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. We want to block these things from being added to the Clean Water and Clean Air Act, like fracking, by the way. They have an exemption from it. So what is Ted Cruz going to do? Of course he's going to listen to the people who paid him. So there's a reason why. We've spoken about this before, but again, it's not an accident that on the Republican side, the people who rise to the top of the ranks, they're fire breathers. Right? They're really loud and obnoxious and crazy, like John Boehner, for example. This is a guy who doesn't back down. You have him leading the Republicans, and who do you have leading the Democrats? Harry Reid, the guy who's never said anything forcefully in his entire life. Now, why is that? Because, again, this is how the establishment wants it. This is how the corporations want it. They want Democrats that'll lay down and take it and let the Republican pro-corporate agenda win. And they want Republicans who are super obnoxious and will hammer home the message and will get their legislation through. So there's a reason why in our government you have the craziest people are the loudest people, and you have the smartest people are the quietest people because they're all playing a role, and that role is forget the American people and give hand jobs to the corporations.